Uh, yeah. I'll go back and do it all over again. No, just kidding. So now we'll welcome Nama, but also want everybody to please keep yourselves on mute. And there'll be time later on for questions, which you can put into the chat. So Nama, please take it away.
Thank you, Rabbi Werbo, and Shavua Tov. Shavua Tov to everyone. Oops, do we have a delay here between my screen and yours? There we go. All right, I hope you all had a wonderful Shabbat, and thank you all for joining tonight. We have a mix of people here, so I'm going to start by talking a bit to the newbies, and then we'll work our way to content even for our raving fans. But here's a teaser. Jew Who Has It All isn't really about Jews. Again, I'm Naama. My pronouns are she, her. I am the creator, editor, and one of 4 writers for Jew Who Has It All, or JWHIA as we abbreviate it. I'm the one who's logged in as Jew Who Has It All and the one behind the keyboard, and I have 3 other wonderful writers behind me. So something funny happened to us a little over a year ago. We won the internet. Here is an actual, very real photo of our totally imaginary trophy, as if the internet were a competition or maybe the prize itself. But let's start at the beginning. So every year before the holiday season, I mean Tishrei, of course, I have what I call my annual season of angst. Tishrei, of course, is the holiday season because it includes 7 Yom Tovs, 5 Chol Hamoed days, 4 Shabbats, maybe 5, and some of which may fall on a Yom Tov. Meanwhile, the Christian holiday season, usually in Kislev, is a fairly quiet month with a relative dearth of holidays across cultures and religions. But religious and secular Christians are getting excited about Yom Christmas. This here is the Jew Who Has It All calendar, a Judeo-normative, interfaith, multicultural American calendar. In relatively larger print within each box are Jewish and US federal holidays, and in smaller print are other holidays, including Baha'i, Buddhist, Christian, Confucian, Hindu, Jain, Mushindo or Korean, Muslim, Pagan or Wiccan, Rastafarian, Sikh, Taoist, Zoroastrian, and geeky holidays. Anyhow, the Christian holiday season taking over December, and nowadays even November, with all things Christmas, claiming it's just a normal American holiday, and also somewhat elevating Hanukkah, the dominant culture's favorite Jewish holiday, after having completely ignored our major holidays. My angst lifts every year on Erev Christmas, when I can't really blame anyone for centering Christmas, given that it's actually Christmas at all. So, in November of 2021, sorry for the captions. Oh, I got it. Okay. I'm trying to not be distracted by the captions here, and I know they're not very good with everything. I apologize about that. So in November 2021, and that was Cheshvan 5782 for those of you using the normal calendar, I started the first Jew Who Has It All account on Twitter with 2 friends. The account was inspired by the fantastic social media presence, Man Who Has It All, who satirizes gender inequality, male narratives, male normativity, and patriarchy. That is, the sexism that is baked into our social systems, maintaining men's dominance over women. Similarly, we, now 4 of us, satirize religious and cultural inequality, dominant culture narratives, Christian normativity, and Christian hegemony. An example of one of Man Who Has It All's posts, here is a tweet that is a post on Twitter, reads, I keep hearing people saying police officer when they could just use the perfectly good gender neutral word policewoman. My friend Michael is a male policewoman and he's absolutely fine with it. I rest my case. Claire, CEO. But back to us. Hegemony in this context is when one social group has leadership or dominance over another. In the case of the United States, there's only an illusion of religious equality, and Christianity shapes their systems in countless ways, sometimes to the detriment of minority religions, including atheism. Normativity, hegemony, privilege, and supremacism are all interrelated. If you're interested in learning more on that, we highly recommend Dr. Khyati Y. Joshi's book, White Christian Privilege. We actually learned about this book about a year after having started our account, but it complements our work really well. This is a highly readable scholarly book wherein Dr. Joshi explains religious and cultural inequality, dominant culture narratives, Christian normativity, and Christian hegemony. So that complements our work really nicely. So this is our Twitter bio or profile. You'll notice here several things. This is my character's avatar. I like to call her Judy for short, but she really represents more than one person, more than one character. Sometimes she's a teacher. Sometimes she works in a corporate office. Sometimes she manages a grocery store. Here's the Jew Who Has It All display name over the Jew Who Has It All username. That display name includes a little flag of the US to remind people in the real world that though Judy is Jewish and defaults to Jewish norms, she does in fact live in the US. She's also very patriotic. Here's our location in the USA, because for some strange reason, people in the real world often assume that Jews are all from Israel, even though most American Jews have never been there. And here's part of the flag of the United States of Medinat America, where Judy lives. The date we started our first account, that's November of 2021, using the Pope Gregory calendar. And by the way, I'm glad you like gregcal.com because that's ours. So here's the first tweet from back then. I just wished my Gentile friend Christina a happy Halloween, and she said that was almost 2 weeks ago and that Thanksgiving is the next holiday. Doesn't she want a happy Halloween whenever I wish it? She should just be grateful I'm including her and want her to be happy. Sound familiar? So this got us a whole 12 likes, meaning 12 people enjoyed it and found it fitting to let us and maybe others who might notice know. But we followed that up a few minutes later with our second tweet. Does anyone know what day Christmas is on this year? Is it in Kislev or Tevet this year? Ugh, I can never figure it out with the way it always moves around. 15 people liked it so much that they shared it, so anyone who follows their posts will also see one of ours. And that led to a whole 42 likes this time. But from then on, we only grew exponentially. Jumping forward about 1 month to the Christian holiday season, when one of the writers noticed that we should probably help out public school teachers by, excuse me. We should probably help out public school teachers by explaining to them this strange holiday some of their students might be observing soon. And that led to this. It's a 16 tweet thread that is a post split into 16 parts. This time, it really got around, with over 2,000 people sharing it and nearly 5,000 people liking it. This is what led us to winning the internet. Here this person replied that I'm awarded 9,000 of them, as if internets are a unit of merit. To this, he wrote, I'm literally dead. I hereby award 9,000 internets to you. I'm sorry, I don't actually know if that's a he. I don't know why. They said, I'm literally dead. I hereby award 9,000 internets to you. To this, there were only two things to say. May your memory be a blessing, and thank you for the internets. In response to which, we were awarded all the internets. Then it kept happening, and we were declared to be winners of various things, like Twitter itself and the Jewish part of the internet. And people kept declaring us the best of one thing or another. Somehow we're still repeatedly surprised by this honor, for which I'm still grateful and full of nachas, or pride, for the entire team. and our following keeps growing. We have over 22,000 followers on Twitter, 5.2 thousand followers on Facebook, and 3.3 thousand followers on Mastodon, where we can be found on Babka. More than just a Mastodon server, Babka is a place for Jews and our allies on the internet where we can be a little shielded from anti-Semitism. So Babka is not mine, it's not my project, but I admire its lead's values, which are in many ways similar to ours. So you can check out their blog at blog.babka.social to learn more about what they're doing. And speaking of values, this goes into why I think what we are doing is working. The other three writers, aside from being some of the absolutely smartest and funniest people I know, are also among the kindest, most moral people I know. And we can all easily talk about and agree on a set of shared values. We have an extensive written ethos, but here is a basic summary. Very basic. Do good. So we use our platform for good. If we do harm, we figure out how to repair it. And this might mean sometimes stepping out of character to apologize earnestly, although we've also earnestly apologized in character. Be accessible. So I told you a bit about the Jew Who Has It All accounts, but we also have another set of accounts, J Who Knows It All, or Jewsplainer. We use Jewsplainer, excuse me, I've been talking all day and it's caught up to me. We use Jewsplainer to make sure nobody has to feel like a butt to our jokes. And anyway, satire just works. It works better anyway if everyone understands it. So we use Jewsplainer also for things like translating any Hebrew or Yiddish. This way everyone can be on the inside. And though about Hebrew and Yiddish, we only use language, which we call Hebrish, a combination of Hebrew and English, in a manner that can be easily understood by giving non-Hebrew and non-Yiddish speakers other ins to understanding, like by context, and not writing entire sentences in Hebrew, or not renaming holidays or use entirely in Hebrew, not using the actual Hebrew names for the holidays, aside from the Jewish holidays, of course. But beyond ensuring understanding, we also want to ensure the choice of participation. And we include written descriptions for every image, and we're learning more about universal design so that we can keep improving on this front. Be respectful. We do not make fun of actual theology, religious beliefs, or faith. We sometimes, in order to ensure we stick within our rules, within our guidelines, we sometimes run our jokes by several Christian sensitivity readers from different denominations prior to posting. We also do not at all satirize minority religions or cultures. Be inclusive. We try to make Medinat America a little better than the real one by, for example, using affirming language and giving priority to people's own terms for their genders and identities. This all hinges on our central principle: the extent to which and whether someone assimilates into the majority culture is a personal choice. Jew Who Has It All is not really about Jews. It's about how America treats its minorities. We just have our own perspective. And when some Jews want to, for example, celebrate Christmas, then that is not at all antithetical to what we are saying. So I think Jew Who Has It All is so popular because it works on multiple levels. One, we make people laugh. Some people find our content funny, even if they don't necessarily understand our point or even recognize that we have one. Often the jokes can be funny also on multiple levels, and at the minimum, people can enjoy the absurdity. At the next level, people enjoy seeing the familiar, maybe even their own favorite holidays centered and lampooned as unfamiliar, and that's okay. Two, we make people cry. Running Jew Who Has It All has been cathartic for us, so we were not at all surprised to find other Jews who recognize what we are doing and feel validation and catharsis in it too. We were surprised to learn that other minorities, and not just religious minorities, but also other cultural minorities, also feel catharsis in it. So this is validating all around. This only works though because of our rule for lol sob. That is, laugh out loud funny, but also devastating is okay, as long as there is more lol than sob. 3, we help people belong. We strive to make sure that everyone who wants to engage with us can do so by using inclusive language and explainers. People who are otherwise left out of Jewish or other communities can feel like a part of the Medinat America community. So no one Jewish movement is recognized as real Jews in comparison to others. Medinat America is a liberal or progressive, egalitarian, pluralistic society, and all movements are accepted and embraced, none are disparaged. Secular Judaism is accepted, and there is no judgment for non-observance. Jews from non-rabbinical streams, intermarriage, and patrilineal descent are all still Jews. Inside, on that note, so-called Messianic Jews or Jews for Jesus are Christian, not Jewish. Jesus is how you lose the Jew card. We block them, sometimes preemptively even, because they're not our audience and we don't want to be theirs. They're already so deep into their replacement theology that it becomes less safe for us, even if we don't engage with them. 4, we help people learn. Non-Jewish allies and would-be allies are getting it. I think it's because humor can get through barriers to communication, like by helping relieve cognitive dissonance. For example, we have found that atheists and anti-theists are more likely to uphold Christian hegemony despite their rejection thereof. They're often the ones to insist that things like Christmas are just normal, secular, all-American things and not Christian. This kind of satire can help give perspective to make our points in a non-threatening manner. Beyond this, we also have some rules of engagement. These are mostly reminders to myself to keep things running smoothly. You do not have to engage. You do not have to engage right away. You can stop engaging at any point. Stop engaging when you feel salty or bitter. Stop engaging with those engaging in bad faith, and stop engaging with those who seem closed to learning. These are really more guidelines than rules, and I think that can help any of you win the internet, but we do actually have some firm rules for ourselves. Some of which we've expressly stated, but interestingly, we've seen other people sharing with newcomers or gently enforcing our rules, even the ones that we never explicitly or expressly stated. So firstly, thou shalt not invert anti-Semitism. If we did invert anti-Semitism, then we would be nearly as bad as the anti-Semites themselves. And this is not about hurting people. Thou shalt not engage on politics. It's divisive and beside the point. Unless it's to the point that the government cannot privilege one religion over others, or unless it's to support a marginalized community or people. Thou shalt not engage on Israel. Not only is it divisive nowadays, but it entirely distracts from our point. We're talking about Jews in the US. We are Americans, and this is about being full members of our country. And finally, thou shalt not tolerate supersessionism. That means neither from ourselves nor from others. Nobody gets away with saying that they are the real Jews and that other Jews are not. With that, let's take one more quick look at the calendar for the real holiday season. That's this month, Adar. At least one major holiday from almost every religion and culture is found between Adar and Nisan. The official holiday season, according to us, or all that really matter, starts either with Tu B'Shvat or the Lunar New Year, whichever comes first. The Lunar New Year, by the way, is doubly a misnomer because neither is it lunar, nor is it the only one. More accurately, it would be called a lunisolar New Year. But again, we privilege communities' own terms for their own cultures, for their own identities. So the Lunar New Year. And it would be really ethnocentric to say that our holiday season is the holiday season for everyone. So with that, before we start the Q&A, I wish you all a Chag Sameach and season's greetings to everyone.
Wonderful. So thank you so much, Nama, for the presentation. And people can put things in the chat. You can raise an electric hand if you want. And we can see what questions people have. We have one hand up, Tybal.
Thank you. I was going to put it in chat, but I'm disabled, so it's hard to read. I have two questions, both very serious. The first one is, I was expecting you to say supersessionist, and you said replacement theology, and then later you said supersessionist. So if you would and think it's relevant, distinguish between those. But then the really burning question is, when you talk about the holidays in Tishrei, when the last day of Tishrei is Rosh Chodesh Cheshvan, do you count that as a Tishrei holiday?
Oh, yes, excellent questions. Supersessionism and replacement theology are, of course, related. And sometimes I do use them interchangeably, even though there are slight differences. Replacement theology is when Christianity or Christians say that people don't need Judaism anymore. Judaism was just a step to becoming Christian, that Jews are incomplete Christians, or that Christianity is the end goal and that Judaism is outdated. Supersessionism is when someone else claims that they are the real Jews, which does overlap with replacement theology. This is all from my understanding. This is actually not my daily life, my grown-up job, or I don't know what to call it. This is not my specialty. Satirize and like having fun with it is. So I apologize if I'm missing any of the technically most correct answers here. Sorry, your other question, of course, yeah, Rosh Chodesh Cheshvan is part of the holiday season, but effectively, most people are so tired of the holiday season by Simchat Torah that we can say it's over. However, in Medinat America, there is one holiday that sometimes might fall outside or past Simchat Torah, even though we consider it part of the holiday season, and that's Yom St. Francis HaKadosh, which surely must be the Christians' most important holiday because it lands near the holiday season. It's the only possibility.
Okay, in the chat from Marcia L, a question is, what is Jewsplainer on Facebook? Sharing the Facebook is easier on Facebook, but I've not found the splainer. No.
Yes, thank you. So we do have Jewsplainer across the three main social media platforms, but Jewsplainer is most active on Twitter, since that's where they get the biggest public reach, and otherwise we're a little strained for bandwidth ourselves. But Jewsplainer does exist on Facebook. I'll make sure today, after we finish this up, to go and post a link to Jewsplainer's account from the Facebook Jew Who Has It All account. There's also one on Mastodon, also through Babka, and that one's really taking a snooze. But we'll try to catch up on things. We have a lot of balls in the air, mostly Jew Who Has It All things. So hopefully you'll forgive us when you see what we're cooking at.
Cynthia Kimmelman, I can't see the whole name, DeVries, just put the Juice Splainer Facebook link in the chat.
Oh,
So,
perfect. Thank you. Sorry, yeah, and I have the chat closed.
yeah. Let's see, other questions. There's a couple comments about what supersessionism is, but we can skip those. Juice Splainer is on Mastodon. Love it there. Okay, that's enough count. Any other questions people have? Cynthia, go ahead.
Hi there, big fan. I am really curious about your Christian audience that you're doing test questions with. And if you would talk a little bit more about how that process goes, their reaction to things, who they are.
Thank you. So we are protecting their anonymity as well, but they are all friends of ours. Some with some who are Christian clergy, some who are theologians, some who are lay people, some have experience with more than one denomination. And so we try to get a good cross section. We still don't have it yet. And it's actually not that many people. It's just people who cover a lot of different categories. And so we don't run everything by them. We mostly trust our own judgment. We have our own ethos that we follow, and so we're pretty sure usually as long as we stick with that we'll be okay. But for the holiday explainers, we want to make sure that we don't get the theology part wrong. We want, when we post a holiday explainer, we want to only get wrong the things that are really more cultural about the holidays. And so we want to know if what we've written is just completely misleading, or if it's offensive. And we were warned not that there are some things that we just shouldn't touch. We don't make fun of All Saints Day at all. We just didn't. We had a little explainer for what we call backwards Purim, which is Halloween, which is the night before All Saints Day and All Souls Day. Did I get them backwards? I might have reversed them. No, I think I got them. But we made sure not to make jokes about those. So the first few times that I approached our sensitivity readers, I was really shy about it. I didn't know how they felt about my whole Jew who has it all thing. And so I was really encouraged though when they responded positively and were so willing to help us out. I don't know. I feel like we cannot rest our accountability on them. They don't. That's still on us. But and we feel like we could do better also on that by expanding and having more sensitivity readers. But for now, they've been incredibly helpful, and I just really appreciate their responses to us.
Tom Hope asks, are you considering winning other venues like stand-up or a show?
Thank you. I personally am actually really nervous speaking right now. I would not do stand-up. I don't think speaking is actually my medium. I can do visuals, I can do writing, and I can do editing, but standing in front of people, no. But I'm learning, I'm practicing, I'm going to practice more. So I guess never say never, but we are working on a book. That's our real goal. We want to make sure that our book comes out while we're still relevant, and hopefully we'll be relevant for a while, but also hopefully we will become irrelevant really quickly when all our problems are solved. So the book will be like a guidebook to Medinat America.
Rebecca Schleider, you want to share your question? You have to unmute if you're there still.
Sorry about that. Thank you. I'm using this on a tablet and I don't normally do that, so I don't understand my technology. Anyway, you may not have a recommendation on this front, but I was just curious, since you talked some about a problem that I find I run into a lot, because I have a lot of different people in my life from different backgrounds and different views. This problem I have of trying to get atheists who are of a Christian background to understand that they are still capable of engaging in Christian supremacy. And I just seem to run into a brick wall almost every time I try and get through on this issue, like, you know, how Christmas is utterly secular and that kind of thing. I didn't know if you had any resources that you would recommend, but I thought I'd ask in case you do.
Yes, thank you. Great question. So I don't really know. I didn't really know how to handle this, and so I created Jew Who Has It All. So I'd recommend Us, but beyond Us, I really recommend White Christian Privilege by Dr. Joshi. It does cover that, and it does address how even people who don't identify as Christian can benefit from white Christian privilege. There's also there are also some good resources at I don't know if it used to be or is now tolerance.org, but they might have some good resources. A lot of it is for teachers, but it might be in there. I mean, there are some examples that or some, you know, pithy quotes that we've seen people use, like, I am a secular atheist Jew, but my celebrating Jewish holidays doesn't make them not Jewish. Similarly, Gentiles who are not Christian celebrating Christian holidays like Christmas does not make those holidays not Christian. So I hope I answered your question.
Okay, from
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the additional resource.
from Victoria Gale, as one of your 9 Christian friends, so welcome, Victoria. I'd love to hear about how you find that Christian participation contributes and what we should be careful of.
Oh, it's fantastic. But I'm down to 6 Christian friends, I'm sorry to say. I was just I had too much chutzpah with one of the 7, and I just assumed that we were friends just because I was so fascinated by him. But he never really made our friendship official. So unfortunately, I just have 6 Christian friends now, but you know, 6 Christian friends is a lot of Christians, actually, especially since there really aren't that many Christians around. So I'm actually still pretty proud. But in real life, I am thrilled with the Christian participation, excuse me, online with Jew Who Has It All. I mean, their engagement just delights me every time. Like, I don't care if they're getting details wrong. You know, I have the urge to boost or share or retweet like everything that one of our Christian fans says, because it's just so delightful every time. And again, there are those different levels of appreciating what we're doing. So even if it's not you know, addressing our point, as long as it's not undermining our point, then I really enjoy it. And I think others do too. I do feel bad sometimes for the people who get chastised while doing that, because I really welcome that sort of engagement. I mean, this is about play and humor as a tool for communicating about more difficult subjects, but we can also just enjoy the play and the humor in and of itself. I think the the one thing to really look out for, to really try to avoid, is undermining our point or centering Christianity. So there are some fans whose engagement I still enjoy, but who I see often centering Christianity in response to what we're doing, which of course, ironically, is centering Christianity in trying to uncenter it.
Hillary K asks, what do you think of the fact that a contestant on Wheel of Fortune had never heard of locks? And in response to that, apparently a lot of Americans hadn't heard of locks either.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, a lot of the country has never met a Jew, or seen a Jew. A lot of the country, might also be calling it just smoked salmon, and so they might still be familiar with it. There's also, there's also the kind of Ashken normativity of it. I don't know if captioning is going to catch that. Oh, that did pretty well. So that's Ashkenazi normativity. And, lox is a food that many people who are in Ashkenazi communities are familiar with. But there was also a lot of Ashkenazi food that I, as an American growing up in California since I was 3 years old, had never heard about until I moved to the East Coast. All Jewish food, but I just never heard of it. Like black and white cookies, I didn't know that was a thing, right? Or rainbow cookies, which aren't really cookies. They're actually, I think, the most delicious possible kind of cake there is. And it was absent from my life for like my first 30 years. So, there are other Jewish foods also that I had just never encountered in a Jewish household in a fairly Jewish community. So I think it's forgivable.
Great. Gideon Bass asks, do you ever think about the alternative history that led to the Jew who has it all world, and whether there was some specific point of divergence?
Oh, yes. So first of all, I love thinking about it. And second of all, I will never touch it. And that is because, one, we cannot replace or we cannot ignore other people's traumas. And we cannot say or pretend that we would have done any better. And then to confront that, to write about that history where either we are doing the bad stuff or we did not do the bad stuff that happened, and so therefore it did not happen, is just a fire that I do not want to touch. But I love seeing the fan theories on it. There have been several threads on alternate history, what led to the creation of Medinat America. And I think so far my favorite one is one that popped up on Discord, where they suspected that that the divergence might have happened with conversos coming over in with Columbus. But the conversos were on the ship with him, and they rebelled and revolted and were just like so disgusted by him that they just diverged right there. Of course, then we, in order to go forward with that alternate history, we'd have to start rewriting some of the US tragedies, and I don't think that's our story to tell.
Eliana and Robert, you want to share your question?
Thank you so much. Big fan of your page. I don't know if you addressed this earlier, so I apologize. We came on a little late. The humor that you do, as you've said, you have sensitivity readers. It's really in good faith, and it's with a lot of heart. When you encounter anti-Semitic humor that is not in good faith and that is not done with heart, which unfortunately happens in the wild, how do you respond? Do you respond? And like, how do you handle that?
Excellent question. I have a heavy block finger, so I will block right away. If anybody is harassing anybody who's engaging with me, I will block them without a word. Although sometimes I will speak up, excuse me, just because people need to see that somebody is speaking up. So if nobody else has already pushed back, I will push back. But usually I just, I avoid the bad faith arguments. I avoid the bad faith actors, and I really, I think that if they're starting with bad faith, then it's not my position. I'm not equipped to handle that. I'm not equipped to start changing anybody's minds. Like all I can do is continue channeling what we have into a more positive experience for everyone around. That said, a lot of times I can't tell if it's in good faith or bad faith. And so I try to err on the side of good faith, and that has bitten me a few times.
I see that I've got like 14 new messages down in my chat. So I'm trying to scroll down and look at the different questions, but thanks for everybody for all of your questions that are coming in. A couple that are focusing on Twitter. One, I'm wondering if you have any thoughts or feelings about Twitter itself and the new policies that seem to encourage hate speech and misinformation. And then another one was, do you have any ambivalence about still being on Twitter?
Ambivalence is a fantastic word, because that is exactly it. I wasn't fully expecting Twitter to just completely implode. And I'm a little worried that what's happened is possibly worse than a complete implosion. But many of our fans and followers, a lot of our high engagement happens on Twitter, and I do not just want to abandon it. I don't want to abandon the people, especially the people who were there with us from the very beginning. But I also don't have the bandwidth for it personally. And so I've just decided, since Twitter started going downhill, that I'm just going to deprioritize my engagement. So I do the banter, responding to people and just random Mazal Tovs and to 120 and may their memory be a blessing and so forth. But I start with Mastodon now, then I move to, if I still have time or I'm in the right mood, then I'll move to Facebook and I'll do Twitter last. So I'm keeping it there. I'm trying to hold on to it, but yeah, ambivalence.
Great, thank you. Are there any types of, this is from Chris, which rhymes with Briss, thanks for that help. Are there any types of posts that had far more traction than you thought they ever would?
Oh goodness. I mean, each time that the holiday explainers came out, I was repeatedly surprised at the attention that they got. I mean, I keep thinking like, well, at some point they're going to get tired of us. Or like at some point they're going to just decide that we're too offensive and that's going to end. There's also, for the entire like first, I don't know, 6 months or so of the account's existence, I would wake up every morning, open my phone, look at Twitter, see that I had 20 plus notifications, which is the maximum that it will show, and think, that's it, I've done it. I've like crossed the line, I've offended someone, I have to find, where my bad post is, apologize, make it right, and close shop. And so that was every single post for the first 6 months. I was surprised that it got traction. I think finally around the Easter explainer that really went viral, that was when I finally let go of that anxiety a bit, but I still worry about that sometimes. I'm also repeatedly surprised that people find it so funny when I say, may your memory be a blessing. Online, it's kind of it's a way of talking now. It's a meme, an idea that spreads through speech. When people find something so funny that they'll say, I'm dead, that joke killed me, right? I am no longer living. And every single time I see that, I respond, may your memory be a blessing. And every single time it gets a huge response. And I just like, how is it that someone other than me laughs at my own jokes?
Thank you. Lee Walzer asks, breaking the wall here. In your daily life, do you have a denomination or are you just Jewish? And what's your Jewish educational background?
Oh, wow. Yes. So I grew up going to Orthodox day school through most of elementary school, mostly because that way I could I could learn Hebrew, I guess. I think I saw my mom is here. Don't speak up, please, Mom. But so maybe she could answer that better. So I'll ask her after the chat why we went there. But our family was mostly just traditional, like we did rituals and whatever observance we did was out of a sense of appreciation for the culture. And I think what fits best with that is the Israeli sense of Masorti, what seems to have really fit best for us now is the capital C conservative movement here.
Thank you. Gregory, you want to ask your question? I think I just got to it in the chat, but you want to ask?
Sure. So I'm wondering if you've ever done anything on tests, on screenings and stuff in public schools that are Christian centric, even if they just, like, I know when I was in my kindergarten screening many years ago, I got points marked down for not knowing what a church was. And then my friend got points marked down for not recognizing a picture of Santa Claus. So I'm wondering if you've ever done anything about that and what your thoughts are.
Oh, yes. We love schools mostly because we hate schools. I mean, I love schools, but most of our material comes from the frustration of sending our children to public schools. And so we do invert that. We do some letters from usually from the principal as if helping the teachers understand how to respond to the parents who complain, not how to solve the problem, not recognizing the problem, but identifying that it's a problem that people are complaining at them, which is how we feel often in our daily lives, that even if diversity and inclusion are stated priorities, the schools then don't seem receptive to, or the administration or the teachers don't seem receptive to our feedback. You know, they say, you know, well, I've had Jewish students before and they didn't have a problem with it. This is just normal American stuff. And so we are planning on doing a lot more of that. Part of it is we have a Slack channel for sharing random things that come up in our lives like this. And school stuff happens a lot. But our kids are in school right now. We need to separate a little so that the schools don't recognize which ones are our children.
Okay, thank you. And then the other question is, you mentioned something about Discord earlier. Do you have anything official on there?
Yes, it's not mine, but it's a fun little group, or actually big group at this point, I think. And they have a Medinat America role-playing channel. So I'll see if I can get a new link for that and I'll post it. Let's see. It's going to, after this chat, I'm writing this down, share link to Discord. I'll have to ask first again for the link since it's not actually my group. I'm just a guest there. So I'll share a link to Discord, and I also said I'll share a link to Facebook to explain that.
Okay, thank you.
Adam Jackson.
Thank you.
Adam Jackson asks, can you talk about what kind of engagement you get from people internationally? Do you think their account is having a measurable, do you think the account is having a measurable effect on Christian normativity in other countries too?
Oh, I would hope so. I mean, I don't know that we're seeing a measurable effect on Christian normativity in our country. We're seeing a few people and they really keep me going when I see, you know, individual efforts here and there from mostly from non-Jewish allies who I think are the most powerful agents for change. But yes, we were surprised to see that we have a large contingency of followers from Ireland, England, and Australia. And so we're mostly surprised that what we're writing is relevant to them. That even though we're so incredibly American centric in what we're writing, we're really emphasizing our Americanness, but it ends up being relevant. So that does surprise me, and I hope that it's helping. I hope that we can make have an effect, let alone a measurable one. We also have a substantial following from Israel, which also surprises me, because I would expect that this wouldn't be a problem so much in a Judeo-normative, in one Judeo-normative, captioning did that, okay, Judeo-normative country. There we go. But I imagine that a lot of people there are olim, or people who immigrated to Israel and or made aliyah. So maybe they have experience with what we are inverting from before then. And maybe though it's affecting, maybe it's affecting their Judeo-normativity in other, in Israel toward other people. There's a difference, of course. Israel is expressly a Jewish country. The US is expressly not a Christian country. But hopefully we can make a difference in the way minorities are regarded all around.
Amber Baum asks, it's an interesting point about how Jew Who Has It All itself contributes to the centering of Christianity by existing in relationship to it. Why do you think that is? And do you think it has to be that way? That is there a version of Jew Who Has It All that isn't a Christian holiday explainer?
Yes, I think I missed a key word in there. So let me know if I miss any part of the question in answering it here. But yes, a lot of what we post is not actually just a Christian holiday explainers. Those are just the ones that are wildly popular. And sometimes it's because they can be enjoyed on different levels, and they are just funny in their absurdity sometimes, and people enjoy that. So I think we post a lot of other stuff that is not just centering Christianity, but it's also a little difficult to imagine a Judeo-normative America that is still very American. Like, I think a lot of very American culture might not have developed in the absence of Christianity. And, we're not trying to erase that. But I think it's I think it's really hard to make our point without continuing to center Christianity. But also, sorry, did train of thought just run off the rails? Yes, I think it did. I think I'll have to come back to that.
Eric Scheckman asks, in the Christian hegemonic world, I have been wished Happy Hanukkah, but never Happy New Year in September. In the Medinat America world, have you considered a minor Christian holiday being elevated to major status?
Yes, that's Yom St. Francis HaKadosh, or St. Francis's feast day, the feast day of St. Francis, which is actually a popular saint feast day. Like, a lot of people really enjoy the blessing of the pets and such. It's not one of their major holidays, though. But in Medinat America, we can only understand it in relation to our own holidays. And that season is just when we have all the most important ones. So clearly, the Feast of St. Francis, or Yom St. Francis HaKadosh, has to be one of their major holidays. We elevate it for them, whether they want it or not. Kind of related to that also, in the real world, that's where my train of thought ran off. Sorry, writing a note to myself so I remember to come back to that. In the real world, there is the holiday Festivus. What is it? Festivus, a holiday for the rest of us, or something like that? Festivus, I've forgotten what the real thing is. This is actually a real problem in my life now that I've renamed like every holiday. I can't always remember what the real names are anymore. And I'm familiar now with so many more holidays. I wrote the calendar and I had to redo it like 5 different times. But now I don't remember the real name, so that's a problem. so there's Festivus, but we wouldn't need that if Christmas weren't such a big deal. Like Festivus would not fall in December. We wouldn't feel excluded if December, or Kislev is just, a run of the mill time that's actually pretty quiet with holidays. I mean, maybe that's an argument for a Festivus in Kislev because there really aren't that many holidays then. But in Medinat America, there is Festivus, a Sukkot for the rest of us, because the non-Jews in Medinat America probably celebrate Sukkot or Sukkos as a secular holiday. There's a secular way to pretty much celebrate or observe almost any holiday. I mean, whether you just have the break fast meal after Yom Kippur without actually any of the, spiritual atonement, any of that, and whether you fasted or not, to Sukkot, where you can have a sukkah. And just like many people in the real world will have a Christmas tree, just because it's so pretty and it's fun to decorate it, and it adds to the atmosphere, and you don't want your kids left out, and you don't want people looking in the one window in the street that doesn't have a Christmas tree in it. In Medinat America, the non-Jews might put up their own sukkah, or sukkahs, just to fit in, or just because it's fun to eat outside during that time of year, or just because they want something to decorate, or just because their kids are coming home with so many sukkah ornaments and they don't know what to do with them, so they may as well just put up a sukkah so they have somewhere to hang those ornaments. So non-Jews in Medinat America might celebrate Sukkot secularly, but they also might feel left out in the rest of the holiday season, the Jewish holiday season, right? It's really ethnocentric of us, it's the Jewish holiday season. And so they might come up with Festivus, Sukkot for the rest of us, during which they set up tents in their yards, just a camping tent, not a sukkah.
Nice, great parallel to Sukkot there. And I was just scrolling down through some of the other things. A lot of these are comments and not necessarily questions, but to share Michael Zwern on the subject of food knowledge. I love the Adar public school menu, in quotes, with a staggering and delicious sounding menu of Jewish and Jew-ish foods from around the globe, India, Ethiopia, Sephardi, Mizrahi, etc. I would be amazed if that menu existed in a real school.
Yes, I was blown away by that. That was not my doing. That was one of the other writers. She's brilliant. And yes, I've seen that many people are responding that they're going to use that school menu as a meal plan for themselves at home. We actually have a meme that we tried to start. We did start a meme that we started, but we're going to keep trying to make it a bigger thing, of a list of Jewish foods. And like you say, Jewish or Jew-ish. Yeah, captioning got it. But in my opinion, or in my outlook, in my view, there we go. In my view, pretty much all Jewish food is fusion with something else, is Jewish fusion food, except matzah. Like matzah is really the only food that we can claim as our own without influence from others' foods. I'm not a food historian, so this is not the end all. But I think it is important also, and we do challenge ourselves to break away from Ashkenormativity. Judaism in Medinat America should be experienced in a little better way than it is in our world. And so the writer who created that really made a conscious choice to include Jewish foods from around the world and recognize that there are Jewish communities all around the world.
A couple other things. There's a plug for the Babka, Marie Klocher, just saying she's a huge fan. The Turner is asking, how do you select what issue to talk about?
Oh, we Okay, that's a great question. Hold on, let me organize thoughts here. We prioritize holidays first. We fill the calendar with holiday greetings, holiday explainers, holiday reactions. Again, lately we've been centering Purim a lot. We had like 2 or 3 posts a day, more than our usual one. But we start with that. Then I really like structure, so I imposed a loose structure for ourselves, right? So the structure is there, but every day of the week has a theme. I don't know if people have noticed it. We sometimes, stray away from it just as needed, or if someone gets a great idea that doesn't fit the structure, we just drop it in right away. But for every Sunday or first day, we try to come up with some way of wondering aloud about Christians or Gentiles. So something that people have said about us, like, oh, I met some Jews. They were just like normal people. So we just, draw from that and turn that into a Christian curiosity. Mondays are usually public school days. Tuesdays are autocorrect or name gags. And so forth. I'm now blanking on it, even though I like stare at that structure every like almost every day. But that just helps us with prompts for where we see we need to some more ideas. There's also, if anything's actually like short-term relevant, then we'll shift things around to make sure that we address issues that come up if we need to, or sometimes we'll just have multiple posts in a day to address things like something in the news.
So Jessica Zahavi asked if the recording is going to be shared. We'll process it, get it ready. We'll put it up, a link with TI, Tifereth Israel, and but also share it with Drew, who has it all, and they can do with it if they want to disseminate it as well.
Thank you. Yes, and we haven't made the decision yet on whether we're going to disseminate it beyond Tifereth Israel.
Great. Sarah Atkins, this is a sort of a positive shout out of your impact. She says, just want to say thank you for your post about graduations. I actually tweeted it at our public school, who's holding the high school graduation an hour before Shabbos, and they had told us to suck it up and refuse to have a conversation with ADL. It was your post that got them to allow my kid the bare minimum, which is receiving their diploma at another time, and their teachers are planning to come and cheer them on. So,
wow.
nice work you're doing.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Other posts, these are more comments. Fascinating podcast. Gregory sharing an underrated advantage of being the only house without Christmas lights. Easier for your friends, parents to find your house when they're driving carpool back from Hebrew school in the dark. Sure.
That's great. So just look for the only house without a sukkah in the street.
Right. 100% would buy a Jew who has it all cookbook. So you could start working on that. That's your next project, I guess. Tybal just remembered why other English speakers in anecdote just made me realize why not America, but other Christian countries. I'm not understanding. I'm sorry.
May I try? Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I had totally forgotten this because it was a few years ago, but this is why you're going to have followers in England and Ireland and Australia, where it's Christian Central. My child a few years ago was starting his first year of grad school in England, and he was absolutely required to attend only one day in a week-long orientation. And drum roll, of course we know the day, it was Yom Kippur. And they didn't back off right away. It's certainly a place that whatever part of the reason why this university has all the money that it does is because when England expelled Jews, the Jews' property in that town went to this part of this university, but it really
Oh.
took a lot for them to back off. And the child in question was supposed to get all these makeup sessions for this absolutely essential. And of course, they never bothered to schedule them.
Oh,
But
that's
anyway,
good.
the point of all that is that that's why a reader who's not even focused on American culture, but is living in such a Christian dominated country is still going to laugh about the American stuff, that satire that you do.
Yes. Well, that makes sense.
Okay, we'll take a couple more. Just Sean Sticky, Kitty, sorry. I love the centering of yellow and white as Christian colors.
Oh, and the slide is yellow too. I didn't mean to do that. Yes. Because it is a totally normal and appropriate thing to color code another people based on the colors of a foreign nation's flag. Like everything Jewish is coded in blue and white. And so naturally we assume that everything Christian, every Christian holiday and all Christian ritual items and Christian decorations should be white and yellow for the colors of the Vatican flag. Of course, in doing that, we accidentally got it right. There are different periods in the. Sorry, this is obviously not my area of expertise, but there are different periods in the Christian liturgical year that are color coded, and like Christmas, I heard does actually fall in gold and white. Yeah, I'm seeing a nod from Chris Rhymes with Briss. Thank you. So we accidentally got it right by trying to get it wrong.
Here's an interesting point, and this might entice me to start working on my garden soon. This St. Patrick's Day is also St. Gertrude of Nivelles Day. She's the patron saint of cats and gardeners. So,
Oh, that's lovely.
for me,
But please don't forget to use the honorific Hakedosha, because we want to still be respectful of our minorities. So Yom Saint Gertrude Hakedosha. Dosha.
nice. Okay, these look like a bunch of other replies. Adam, with your hand up, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say I love the account, and it really resonated with me, because I think sometimes people don't realize that Christian normativity or sort of centering the kind of majority religion might not necessarily be a kind of, it might be done in a good faith way. And I say this because I had an experience where I actually did something that sort of centered Judeo-normativity without even realizing it, and had quite an awkward experience. When I was interviewing for university as an undergraduate, I had an interview with a professor who was a woman wearing a very large crucifix around her neck, and I'd never met anyone who wore a crucifix. And when I walked into the interview, I was sort of unsure, like, should I shake her hand or should I not? Because my frame of reference was really religious Jewish women don't touch men. So maybe a really religious Christian woman would also be uncomfortable. Somebody who's comfortable wearing a huge cross would also be uncomfortable. And there was this very awkward interaction where she said, "You don't really want to shake my hand, do you?" And I couldn't even explain what was behind my thought process, which was, I am assuming from a Jewish perspective that as a really religious Christian, you might be uncomfortable touching men. And as a 17, 18-year-old, I just couldn't even unpack that. So decades later, this is incredibly valuable for me. Just wanted to share that anecdote.
Goodness, thank you. I don't know, if it's all right with you, we might have to do something with that. We might have to write that up.
Sure.
Wonderful. Well, we seem to have come to the end of a scroll, which doesn't mean rush, get in more questions, but it means we have an opportunity to thank you, Naama, for sharing this with us. Cynthia, thank you for your comment there. Thanking TI. We're really happy to have Nama with us. Hopefully it's her first of many opportunities to share this out in the world, because I agree with the comments that have been made, the questions, that this is really an important thing for the world, right? To question the way that whether it's Christian normativity, Judeo normativity, Ashken normativity within Judaism, all should be things to be focusing on, and careful about how we're speaking and stressing different parts of our lives. So it's really wonderful. You're getting some very positive feedback in the chat, and I want to wish everybody a happy Purim for those who are celebrating starting Monday evening, and hope that this was a kickoff to that joyful experience coming up. So thank you, Nama.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Werbo. Before everyone leaves, I'd just like to remind you that if you ordered any Girl Scout Hamantaschen, you can pick them up later after the talk. And if you haven't placed your order, it's not too late to get them in time for Purim. Just find a Girl Scout booth in front of any grocery store, and they'll be selling the Girl Scout Hamantaschen.
Wonderful. Oh, and you got a gluten-free kind. That's nice. Nice. Wonderful. Thanks to everybody for coming. Have a good evening. And